I started Cape Cod Nail Company as a strictly remote mobile business. So we traveled around servicing small groups and parties, going to people's homes, work at a lot of resorts on Cape Cod. We kind of grew that into launching a polish line, which lived on the e-commerce world for a little while and still does. And then EforAll gave me the opportunity to launch a pop-up shop in the Mashpee Commons, which we kind of designated more to a retail store than offering services just because of licensing and the Board of Cosmetology, things like that in the space in there. And it really was kind of just a way for me to get my feet wet and see if I liked it, see how people reacted to it. And then from there, after navigating the crazy COVID year that we had, we launched a full-blown brick and mortar nail salon in the Mashpee Commons. So it's been wild for sure. But definitely like steady progressing, steady growth, which feels really good. Having a brick and mortar is definitely so much more than I ever imagined. But it's really nice to have like a home and a place where I can bring my team together and kind of keep everybody on the same page. I think we're closer now than we were just working mobily. So it's been good. And now we kind of have like a one-stop shop. We have an esthetician in house. We have our polish in there for retail, and we're offering full services for groups and individuals, which is something that we couldn't do before. So it's really good.
What was the process like to actually get that location with Mashpee Commons, the one you're at now?
It was a long one. Not gonna lie, this is a safe space, right? It was a lot of negotiating. I was just about to sign the lease in February of 2020, and then everything went down, and I was like, oh no, like this is a hard stop on everything. We were all just kind of in limbo there for a little while, and honestly, like I had no idea what was going to happen to Cape Cod Nail Company. I went from being like scared to move forward to like super afraid that this was it. But yeah, the negotiation process, it was definitely a learning experience for me. I'm happy that I was able to experience it, and now like I feel much more confident. It's like when you go to buy a car, you know what I mean? Like little tricks and tips, and now I have that in the bag. But I definitely had somebody help me in the process who's super experienced in commercial real estate. So yeah, that was very helpful to have him by my side, just fine tooth combing through all the nooks and crannies of the 35-page lease. It's intimidating for sure. Yeah. And the Mashpee Commons is a doozy. Like they don't mess around, like they're intense. So it's good. But yeah.
Does anybody have any questions for Sarah? And I see Nikki's back, and we're going to try that again after.
What's been the biggest? Oh, go ahead, Will.
No, I just wanted to ask real quickly, Sarah, if now that you know what you know, what lessons did you learn? I mean, I know you shared a few of them, but like, are there any sort of general takeaways that now that you're on the other side that you would recommend for entrepreneurs who are thinking about making the leap into a physical space?
Yeah, I would say it's all about planning. Like I had a ton of extra time with COVID to kind of plan for the launch of this. So I think and like I still could have taken so much more time. Like there's still things that I'm trying to do now that I should have done before that I'm just like, I didn't know. Operations manuals, things like that, just like keeping everything super tight, super clean, make sure that you have your accountant or like those systems all set up. I think just like on an operational side, like you can never be too prepared.
So, quick question. What do you see as the biggest benefit so far to being in a brick and mortar compared to when you were mobile?
So I think that having a brick and mortar like really legitimizes the business. Like before, people would see, I'd be talking to people and, oh yeah, I own like a mobile nail salon, and they'd be like, oh, that's so cute. Like you go to people's houses and do nails. I'm like, well, I'm 33 and like this is actually my career and like a real business. So I think just like having that solid presence, it's like a wow factor almost. Like, wow, like this is actually, like we're not just a couple nail techs now traveling around doing this for fun. It just kind of gives us a little bit more credibility, I think, if I'm being honest.
What would you say is the worst thing about having?
Go ahead.
Just a follow.
The worst thing, it's definitely like the overhead is super hefty for sure. And then staffing right now, which everybody is having a problem with. I can't even say it without like getting upset. Just dealing with the people, and it's a bigger space, and just employees are challenging. It's a racket, but
Awesome. Sorry, Caroline, go ahead.
Sorry. Hi, Sarah. I'm Caroline, Atlantic Soap Company. I was just in the fall 2020 cohort, and I actually discovered EforAll because of you.
Oh, thank you.
I was following you on Instagram, and I saw that you were doing this pop-up in Mashpee Commons, and I was like, how did she get that? That's awesome. So then I sort of found, figured out that had been through EforAll, and so that was kind of how I got introduced to the program. So my question is, I'm not entirely sure that bricks and mortar is the path for me. I think about it. Part of the reason I started this was to untether myself from retail bricks and mortar. But the pop-up idea in Mashpee Commons is really interesting to me. And so what I would love to know, you talk about your team. I have no team so far. It's just me. How many people were involved in that? Were you kind of there all the time, or did you have employees at that point? Or what was the size of your business in terms of staff when you took that on?
For the pop-up shop, I definitely had girls working for me. I think we had like about 6 of us, including myself. And because we were retail, it was a lot easier to find people than it is now, because they're retail girls. Like they can be super fun, like high school girls. They don't need a nail license or anything.
Right.
So yeah, that, which brings on its own groups of challenges, right? Like the younger girls, like it's really nice outside. They're gonna call in sick. They want to go to the beach. They're going to the vineyard with their boyfriends. Like, right. So that was difficult to navigate. But yeah, I would say like I tried to keep it small. And I think looking back, like for that space in the Mashpee Commons, like I think that negotiating your hours I would go as far to say that that's worth doing with them and being upfront with that from the beginning. I've seen a lot of local businesses like close on Mondays, and it's just like you have to have a day to be able to get stuff done. Like I was pretty much, and I have 2 kids too, so I was there almost every single day, just making sure things were going smooth in the store. And it was difficult. It was a lot of work because you have so much preparation and so much training, getting the software, like setting it up for such a short period of time. Which hindsight, I was like, wow, like you really don't realize like how much work it actually was just to launch the pop-up. I spent a lot of money like to get that store. I was in there painting, but it was worth it. I think in the long run, it really was like a great tester, and it's a small space. So I would say like have like a micro, like a smaller space to start. But
so are you in the shop every day now, or do you take days off for yourself?
I take days off. Yeah, I'm like finally getting there. We got to the point where I was counting in the car on my way home, like, because I knew this was going to come up. I'm like, how many girls do we have? We have 7 nail techs right now, including myself. I have 2 kids, they're 7 and 10, so they can't be home. And we're super short staffed, but I knew the number that I needed to hit in order to be able to pay the bills and pay myself. So as long as we're hitting that, like, it is what it is. You can't run yourself into the ground. I'm starting to crawl out of a very dark hole that I've been in for the past few months. So I will be taking at least 2 days and 2 remote days over the summer for sure.
Nice. Good. That's awesome. Congratulations.
And I love your company. I follow you too, and I'm so happy.
Thanks.
I love your products.
Thank you.
Were there any expenses that you didn't anticipate? Especially like larger expenses coming into this?
I think insurance kind of blew me away. The product insurance for sure. Like just moving into a more established space, I did like a pretty hefty product insurance, and I was surprised. And it took me 3 weeks to find an insurance company that would cover me because of the scope of services that we provide. Going into people's homes. So I have employees driving now, and then the product insurance, the actual nail polish, nobody wanted to touch it. So it was kind of expensive. And then, yeah, I think just payroll. Payroll is always such a thing. Like it's going to be more than I anticipate every single time.
We also have a question from the chat. Amanda asks, what aspects of a brick and mortar are negotiable with the landlord? What can people expect as normal in the negotiation process?
It was a lot of back and forth, like more so than I ever imagined. Like they would propose something and I would shoot it back, and they'd be like, well, we don't like this. And well, I do. So let's change this to meet you in the middle. I think it's really just like price per square foot. They were pretty like flexible in working with us, I think, because we're kind of a smaller business going through the EforAll. We had the pop-up, and to be completely transparent, like they were really desperate for a nail salon to go in there. They had the space, they really wanted to fill it. So I don't know if that had anything to do with it. Like I said, I think this is a safe space. The Mashpee Commons sent me a lease for the space I'm in now. The month that I opened the pop-up shop in 2019, which was wild. Like I had no idea that was like their whole thing, I think, for having us there, which was it was cool, but definitely intimidating. But yeah, I think price per square foot, I think that you can be very flexible. Like percentage-based rents are kind of a thing in the Mashpee Commons, which I don't know if that's everywhere, but they do ask you to report your sales, and there's some percentage-based things going on there. So I think all of those things are super negotiable. You just have to be creative, for sure.
Excellent. Does anybody else have a question for Sarah?
Yeah, one last question, I guess. You've been in the comments for a while now, I know. You know, having the pop-up space and now your own space. Would you, and it's kind of a future idea, but would you be open to the idea of purchasing your own building, like property at some point, or just staying in a mall type situation where you're a leasee?
I think that I would 100% be interested in purchasing property in the future, for sure. For me personally, having a space that's like my home is right there too, and having an income property situation would be ideal for my lifestyle. But yeah, I would be really interested in seeing what else is out there. The Mashpee Commons specifically is so great. They do a really great job. The rent is high there, but they really do a great job keeping the ground super clean. The maintenance is on top of everything. The foot traffic is crazy. Their marketing girl is amazing. She's always working with you. I just got an email from them today, like, hey, we're doing a photo shoot on Monday. Surprise, like we want to feature you. I'm like, oh my God, like that's like that's great. Their Instagram is really active. They're always hosting like fun things to do for the kids, like animal balloons on Tuesdays. So it is like a very connected community, which I think is always great to have. But I think, hopefully if I do things right, we'll be looking at a second location 10 years from now, which I would be interested in purchasing. So I see benefit to both, honestly.
Well, Nicole's back, but she's driving.
So I'm only 4 minutes from home, so maybe I'll wait till I get there after service. So I don't know if Sarah has any last thoughts before I take.
You're putting me on the spot, Nicole. Yeah, I mean, I don't know, guys. Like, I still like, some days are better than others. Like, we've had just a couple really challenging days getting the team, and it has been a really rough few months. I'm not gonna lie. Like, getting everybody on the same page and just staffing has been such a nightmare. And I think that's industry wide, all over, everywhere right now. But yeah, it's a lot of work. Like, it really is a ton of work. And some days, on bad days, I'm like, oh my God, like, what was I thinking? This is terrible. I'm never going to be able to see my family. Like, am I ever going to get to go on vacation? But when I like pull myself out of that moment and look at it from the top, and I can kind of see, which, like, EforAll, that's a skill that I learned from going through EforAll, is being able to pull yourself out of it and seeing it from the top and be like, okay, here's this, and this. Like, it's going to be so worth it. And I think that once we get through, like, I just opened it in December, and I got to cut myself some slack sometimes too. I'm always so hard on myself, but I think at the end of the day, like, the brick and mortar, I stand by that. It just kind of puts us on the map and gives us a home where we can really have a place to stand to grow the different aspects of the business. So I think that's what I'm most excited about and most looking forward to, is just having a place to go that everything is in one spot, and having the customers in every day too, like getting their feedback. I'm all about customer feedback and surveys, and like, it's so nice to have people come in and be like, I like that color, like, you should add that color to your line. I'm like, you know what, you're right, like, that's a beautiful red, like, why don't we have that? What would you name it? Like, it's just really fun. I love people, so having that every day is worth it.
I got a couple of questions that just popped in from Amanda. The first one is, what is the most surprising but positive thing about being in a brick and mortar? And then her quick follow-up, which honestly, I second this. Have you guys figured out what you're going to call that new green shade yet?
No, we haven't. Oh my gosh, there's so many good ones on Instagram. I haven't had the chance to weed through them yet. So no, we haven't named that color yet. But I think, like, the positive is just the feedback and support from the community, which I don't even know why that surprises me anymore, because, like, we have such a great place on the Cape here, and everyone in EforAll, like CCYP, has also been amazing. But yeah, I think, like, it's really refreshing to have people come in and, just, like, really genuinely, people who don't know us, they're like, wow, like, this is a really cool space. I love the vibe in here. It's so beachy and bright. Like, you've done a great job. Me and my dad built that space. Like, we knocked down all the walls and rebuilt it from the ground up. So it's really like a labor of love, and like, it feels home to me now. So that was surprising how comfortable I am in the space so quickly. I'll go there at night sometimes at like 9 when I can't sleep, or like I'm frustrated. My kids, maybe not that late, but my kids are up. I'm like, oh God, like, I gotta go. I'm going to the shop to get some work done. And I'll just go there and just hang out in the back room, and it's really nice.
How far away is the shop from your house?
12 minutes if I don't hit a red light with no traffic.
That's key for me. I feel like if I'm gonna do anything like this, it can't be very far away from my house, or it's not gonna work.
100%.
Yeah, I got to come and check out the new spot. I like the old one, but it was tiny.
Yeah.
It was very homey when you walked in there. It was very comfortable. I'm sure the bigger space is even better.
Thanks.
And for the record, I like that whale of a teal comment on Instagram. That was a really good name for that.
That one was a good one for sure.
Yeah.
There was another one, like the green flash was cool. Her name's Allison. She's a client, and she works for the government doing science research on whales. So she always has some good names.
Amanda thinks it should be mermaid scales.
Oh, I like that one. That's a good one too, Amanda. We've been getting some feedback that we need like more like Cape specific names. Like they have a color in this group that's going to be coming out called Bluffin' It. Another one is 6A All Day. So like really kind of more Cape. Like no question that it's Cape Cod. We're trying to work it in, but I've had writer's block for a hot minute. It's been a long time.
I always do Craig Teal Beach.
Oh, that one's good. That was kind of funny.
I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, no, that was a good one. I like that. You gotta comment on these so that I can remember them.
I'll have to do that. Nicole's in the backyard.
Great, I made it. I'm home.
Welcome back.
Thank you. Should be much more secure now. Although, of course, it's chaotic as always. My dog got out when the kids opened the door. So, you know, always fun. So what I was saying before, and it was so funny because I could hear and see all of you and everything you were saying, but apparently you couldn't hear me, which was really funny. So the Bear Cove, we started off traveling in 2018, and we had a bus that we traveled around on, which was amazing for birthday parties and special events. And then unfortunately, just a week shy of a year in, we were set up for our second and our first full summer. Our bus was totaled. So a vehicle in front of me knocked down power lines onto it and completely totaled, not drivable, not safe to have children in anymore. It had messed with all the electrical systems. The tires were all blown. So unfortunately, I still miss my bus every day because that was such a fun way to travel. You know, if I could buy another bus and it worked out as a business model, I totally would. But it was a great opportunity for us to expand and grow bigger. So I was kind of forced into a brick and mortar because I didn't want to lose out on that summer business of Cape Cod. So I had just happened to have a relationship with the Cape Cod Mall because I was going to park my bus there. And when I called them to tell them that I couldn't, they said, come in and look at a space. And that's like the first thing I really learned about brick and mortar was not to underestimate yourself. I always thought that I was too small. And I was like, there's no way I could go into a mall or a Mashpee Commons. Like, I was like, nah, no, like I can't afford that. They're not going to work with me on that. And I was completely wrong. You know, I really think that these larger corporations, especially these days, are looking for small businesses for the perception that they are working local and, you know, helping the local businesses. And also for the diversity of business, because as these businesses grow larger and larger, a lot of the small business options are disappearing. So that was something I found out. And knowing that now empowers me more to negotiate a lease and get the terms that I need. So when I first went into that location, I thought I did amazing at getting terms, and I did well, but I thought I did like this excellent job getting terms. And, you know, I did get termination rights, which is something that, you know, Amanda asked, what are some things that are negotiable? That's a number one thing that I would ask for is 30-day termination rights. So in case anything happens, especially as a small business, where all of a sudden it's not sustainable, you get hurt, or you know, you get sued, anything like that, you're not on the line to keep this location open for any certain amount of time or pay money if you close before the lease ends. So I did get that in my first lease, and really I did well in the mall. Birthday parties were amazing. I was able to increase my revenue, you know, really like quadruple the amount I could do traveling. So while I did have higher expenses, it certainly paid for itself. Thanks, bud. I think they just don't understand, like I can't talk to them at this moment. So that was really great. And then COVID happened. So, you know, like everybody, we shut up shop, you know, we were like, okay, and I actually closed the weekend before the governor did the state of emergency and started shutting everything down, school shut down. Because I was worried, I think we all were, about what it meant, and having a business relating to children who are germ factories in their own. You know, I was like, all right, we have to shut this down and be safe. I did not think, like everybody else, that that was going to be such a long-term shutdown. I thought like 2 weeks, 3 weeks, I'd be back open. And the expenses started to pile up, and the relief did not come in for me in the time that I needed for it to come in. So July came around, and we decided I exercised my 30-day termination rights, which thank God I had them. And I decided to give my notice and close, which was a really hard choice. You know, again, here I was, my second issue of having to stop, you know, just slam on the brakes and close down to regroup. So that's, you know, the first brick and mortar aspect of it. And being in there, I learned a lot about, you know, payroll and insurance. You know, Sarah was talking about how insurances can be costly. And, you know, for me, I'd already dealt with the bus. I could only find one carrier that would insure my bus because of the same type of like having people on your business. Increases the liability quite a bit. And then going into the mall, like going into a brick and mortar, certain places might request that you carry a certain amount of insurance, that you name them on your policy, so you're covering them as well. That was definitely something that was a shocker to me. I was like, oh, great. And then just dealing with all of that on top of everything else that you're trying to do to get your business going. You know, you think about the everyday, like, okay, I've got to order, I've got to stock, I've got to sell, I've got to do the books, but then it's, you know, payroll, insurance, signing contracts with Comcast Business, which is enough to blow your mind. I mean, reading that contract is probably worse than reading your lease. So there's a lot to it. So I would say, like Sarah was saying, planning, you can plan and plan and plan. It's not going to be enough. Just trying to plan as much as you can and delegate as much as you can. If you have people that you trust that you can have make phone calls for you, or help you figure things out, or even just be a sounding board. I know a lot of people in here are connected with EforAll and hopefully still have mentors or have access to those mentors. Using as many people. I've called Will and talked to Will. You know, I've called Amanda and Kristen. I call my mentors still. Right now I'm renegotiating again with Cape Cod Mall to try and reopen our brick and mortar, which we were trying to reopen in April, and negotiations fell through. And that's another thing. I wouldn't be afraid to walk away from negotiations. It actually kind of gives you a little bit more power to do that. So if you're not on a certain time frame, walk away. If you're not getting exactly what you want, walk away. And the thing is that whether you reapproach them or they reapproach you, they're going to be more inclined to work with you because they're going to want your business in their location. So now I was able to get half of the rent I was paying pre-COVID, termination rights and shortened hours, like more than half of what my usual hours were in the mall. I mean, so like I said, I thought small business, they're not going to negotiate with me, but really everything I ask for, I get. So if you don't ask, you don't get it. And just ask for what you need and know what you can do, because like Sarah, I burnt myself out that first year. I think Sarah came in to visit me a few times and I was like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, what day is it? I haven't seen my family. Like, I don't know if I can do this anymore. And you can't burn yourself out. You can't be the only one. Like, for the first 3 months, I was the only one working, and it was mall hours. So I was open 10 a.m. till 9 p.m. And I don't know why or how, but I did it. But I wish I knew earlier that I could have called the shots and I could have gotten what I needed. Yeah.
Did you have professional help with that negotiation, or was it all you?
It was me. So, I mean, I had sounding boards from mentors, but it was me. And then the second time around, it was, I did talk a lot with my mentor, Erin, and Will. I called, and it was pretty much just determining and internally realizing what I could do, writing down on paper, my budgeting again, if this happens, what can I afford? If that happens, what can I afford? And then just trying to go in as low as possible and then standing my ground. So, like, in person, I remember meeting with the leasing agent and them saying, well, can you do 2% more um, in sales? And I just stood there and I almost pretended to think about it. And I was like, no. And and really they were like, okay, all right, fine. And we just went with the terms that I laid out. And I will say having things written down helps me, because then it's like, this is what I said I could do. And I can't do more than that. And just, it helps kind of give myself that backbone on the piece of paper, like, nope, this is what I can do.
Hi, Nicole. I have 2 questions for you. First of all, on your 30-day right determination, was that for any reason, or were there certain circumstances that it had to be?
Any reason.
Okay, interesting.
Yep, any reason at all. 30-day termination rights.
Cool.
I offered, like, when I was going back in, which actually they gave it back to me from the beginning, so that's fine. But in April, I said that I would give them 6 months with no, like, I'll guaranteed be there 6 months, and then I wanted termination rights. And they were great with that, but now, I mean, they don't care. So.
Yeah. Okay. That's good to know. And then the other question is, when you had your bus, what did you need to do in terms of like permits, or like what was involved in finding a place to park it and then getting the proper permission or permits, or how complicated was that? And I'm sure it was different for different locations, but were you generally in the parking lot of another business, or sort of what kind of how did that work?
Yeah, so the key there is, if you park on public property, you need to have a permit from the town that you're in. If you are on private property, most towns, as long as you have permission from the landowner, you're fine. So, I mean, I have a business license. I have all the licensing that I need to operate. And there might be certain towns where I would go with the ask for forgiveness policy.
Sure.
La 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 la.
Yeah.
But no, I've never had an issue. I always get written notice from the person, this property I'm on. I've never parked on public property because it's just a headache. I don't even want to enter that world of permitting through, like, especially Barnstable. So I go public or private property, and some will ask you to get them covered on their insurance, like the mall. And it's a pretty easy process to call your insurance agent. It's only difficult if you need to increase your insurance for any reason. I kept mine up high, so it's like 2 million / 4 million. And it was like a $7 difference from what I had. So
yeah,
a month. It was not a big deal.
Cool. Thanks.
Can I ask a question, Nicole? Are there some products that you were forced to give up, that you were then maybe able to sort of reframe, I don't know, reconstitute, because they were profitable and you didn't want to lose them. So in other words, products that can outlast physical constraints. And is there anything in insight there that could be helpful to who's listening?
You mean, well, I mean, I had services that I got rid of because I felt like they weren't, I mean, my products have pretty much stayed the same. My pricing has adjusted.
You're right. I guess I should have said more. Is it offerings? Like, there are some offerings that are easier to offer because you're mobile, and then there are some where it's just less work and less overhead and less stress on you and your system to just have a physical location. So I just wondered if you had any, if you learned anything from that.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely, going back into a mobile version, I stopped carrying as many accessories, things like that, that weren't making me as much of a profit. So like in the mall location, I mean, I had sunglasses and bandanas, and I mean, all these little things that were like a $3, $4 sale that don't make sense to even take the time to set up in a mobile version. So there's definitely been some adjustments there. And things even that I learned didn't work in the mall location, as far as, I renovated my whole store to be able to do drop off care, have people drop off their kids while they went shopping. And I thought, this is a like dynamite idea. Got the space. People love it. I did surveys. Everybody wanted it. And boy, was I wrong. I mean, I spent $4,000 or $5,000 renovating the store and shut down for 2 weeks to do it. And I had like less than 20 kids dropped off in the entire month of November and December, that I thought would be huge. And I spent a lot of marketing money on it. So, I mean, honestly, I think with anything, you learn instantly what's going to be worth your time, it's going to give you the profits that you need and what you need to ditch and move on from.
Cool, thanks. It's hard though, because when you do surveying and you do marketing work and the response is yes, there still isn't any there until it's not research and it's not market testing. Let me ask it a different way. If you had opened without the childcare offerings, would it have taken the same amount of interest while you were already open to start offering childcare, or would you have said, well, that's ridiculous? In other words, we all go through this, like, how much do we believe our customers? I mean, I hate to say it, but that is a thing, right? Because you don't want to extrapolate a huge business decision based on X number of customers. At the same time, do you feel that in your new offerings, and certainly as you're going back into a physical location, perhaps, would you reverse that? Like, if the customer base was asking for something you weren't doing, would you consider that differently than if you had asked originally? Do you know what I'm trying to say? I know I'm not wording it correctly.
I do. No, I get it. But actually, I mean, I did have customers asking for it. So, I mean, I had a lot of customers and that's why I moved on it, because I was like, well, they're asking me, because people would come in and leave their kids with me before I even thought about the idea. They would just drop their kids off in my store. And I was like, I don't have the permitting for this. Like, I don't know who you are. I don't have the systems. I don't have your contact information. Like, I don't have the insurance for this. Like, it was like, what are you doing? So, and that's when I started asking, was when people started doing it. And then I started asking the questions and did surveys. And then I even met with a woman who did it prior, who had a location in the mall. She did drop off care. And then she was such a big service, she moved outside the mall, offering it in a bigger location. So I thought for sure this was a win. I was like, I'll be able to supplement with this service. I'll be able to make up for the slow months of January, February, and March. And was totally wrong, and just shocked by how wrong I was. It almost became like, as soon as I offered it, the perception changed. And I don't know how I could have controlled it differently. If I could have controlled that perception, maybe it would have been successful. But yeah. So I don't know if I would.
And I'm not choosing to bring it up for any sore subject reason. It's more that because you're being so generous enough to share about your thought process, and we're all entrepreneurs here who have made mistakes. There's no mistake-free entrepreneur. If they are, they're lying to your face.
Oh yeah,
And so
I'll admit,
I
like
appreciate
I
that.
made a million mistakes,
Oh,
but
yeah.
that was definitely, I think if I had to go back to that moment,
Mhm.
I would have done the same thing. I mean, with the information that I had, I don't think there's any way I would have made a different choice. It's just unfortunate that I had to learn that it was a wrong choice by doing it.
Got it.
And sometimes that is the case with owning your own business. There's no way to know it's a mistake until you do it.
Got it. Thank you.
How hard is that work-life balance with having two kids? And I know your kids, because my kid and your kids play all the time together, but that work-life balance between having two kids, I know you've homeschooled for a while, but now they're back at school, but that balance is really difficult to achieve. And I know, Sarah, you got a couple of kids too. I mean, that balance is, it's great to have a partner to do it with, but some of us don't, every once in a while. So what would be your best advice about that work kid life balance?
I'm lucky in a way that my kids were amused enough when they came with me when I had my store location, because we had toys and things like that. It's a kid business, and my daughter is very entrepreneurial, so she would always say she's taking over. So for that, when I had the store, it wasn't too bad. I will say it was really difficult on my husband, who had to do a lot more than he would normally. But traveling is more difficult, because then it's right here. I got it. See, I got it. It's right there. It was a spider, but you got it. Maybe it was an ant. It wasn't a spider. So yeah, traveling is hard. Because you don't really have that choice to bring your kids with you to someone's house or contain them in a travel trailer to play while you set up in a parking lot. I mean, that's definitely more difficult. So trying to have a network. We have family close who sometimes would help us out. We have neighbors now who are amazing. Thankfully, some teenagers that we can have as more affordable childcare. So yeah, I mean, I don't think there's ever a perfect balance of work and life. And if you have it for a short period of time, it always changes because something in your business changes or your life changes. So that's always something you need to adapt and try and figure out. But just being mindful of it and not losing sight of what your family needs and what you need, and readjusting your business, whether it's hiring more people or finding new ways to have your kids with someone, family, friends, something like that.
Sarah, how about you? Same question.
Yeah, I kind of second what Nicole said. I think for me, and I don't know if this is like a kid personality, Nicole, let me know if your kids do this to you too, but my work schedule, like, although I work a lot, like, it's pretty flexible. Like, there's plenty of times where, like, I usually get home at 3, the little one gets home at 3:45, and I don't work in the afternoons until they go to bed. So I might be working like 8:30 p.m. to like 1 a.m. sometimes answering emails, but my kids tend to like lay the guilt trip on me super hard when, like, if I do have to go to work on a Saturday, that they have somebody to hang out with that they love, like family or friends are close by, they like really lay it on thick. And it's really hard sometimes, like, not to get taken away by that. So I like I love my kids and I love spending time with them, but I do try to be real with them. Like, listen, like, yes, I do have to work a lot, but I own this business and it allows me the flexibility to step out for a couple hours in the middle of a Wednesday to go to your graduation or your course concert at school. So, I'm not going to be here tomorrow, but I was there for you yesterday and I will be there for you the next day too. Like, I find myself like constantly having to have these conversations, like, like forgiving myself and being realistic in the sense that like I'm home a lot. I'm working a lot too, but like I am home a lot, and my schedule is flexible. So I think just being real with them. My kids are 7 and 10, and we try to make it fun. Like I'm not gonna lie. There's been plenty of days where I'm like, hey guys, guess what? We have to go to the Mashpee Commons for an hour, but we can go to Sweet Waves after too. Like, so there's a lot of bribery going on and things like that. But my son is very entrepreneurial also, like Nicole's daughter. So they like kind of enjoy it. I keep them involved, and it's hard. It's very hard, but you just make it work, and you have to be nice to yourself too.
So what is your last question, 30-second answers, because we're almost up to the top of the hour. What is the absolute quick best story you've got about your journey of how your business has evolved in the last few years? Either of you, both of you.
I'll go because I'm unmuted. I guess like my story, and this isn't like a situational story per se, but I never wanted a brick and mortar, like ever. It was never on my plan to open the salon. It was just kind of this organic, natural progression. I started the business so that I could be home with my kids. They were little when I started it. They're older now, they're in school full time. So I think like the story is just to be flexible and go with the flow and pivot where you need to, and don't be afraid to do it for you too. Like as I started moving forward, I realized that this is something that I wanted, and it was a lot of work and the kids and everything, but you gotta stay true to yourself too.
So I think for me in my journey, it's always been a constant reevaluation process of where I am and what I need and what my business needs and what I need to do to move it forward. So like right now, I'm actually set up to have a really good summer if I were to be mobile. I've got all these places offering for me to park there for free, and I've never had that opportunity before, which means my overhead is simply my truck and trailer, gas, and things like that, which is amazing. But I quickly realized that I set up this mobile venture again, and the way I have it, having to take everything out and set everything up and pack everything back in, and I've had like breathing problems lately, and so because of it, I'm like, great, I set this all up, I'm all set, and now I feel like it's not feasible for my personal body. So I either sell the business to someone else who can do it, or I readjust, and of course that's what I chose because I'm too attached to sell. And here I am now, bouncing back into looking for a brick and mortar and negotiating and figuring out where I need to be for my customers, where I need to be for me, and making the choices because that's what I need. So even though my business would probably be successful this summer traveling and I could hold off on a brick and mortar, it makes the most sense for me, my family, and my health. So really, there's a lot of factors to consider. It's not just writing out a proposal or a budget plan and saying this is going to work. Is it going to work for you? Is it going to work for your family? Is it going to work for the business to be successful? And is it what you want? Is it what you're passionate about? Because if you're moving forward and you don't feel excited or passionate, maybe you shouldn't. You should try to think of other ways to move forward.
I want to officially thank you both so much for your time this afternoon, for coming and hanging out with us and answering our questions and telling us about your brick and mortar stories and helping the rest of us decide how we're going to do that with our businesses. And on behalf of EforAll, thanks for everyone who came to the alumni committee event. So you want a brick and mortar? Is there anything else before we close this out?
Yeah, just a quick pitch for the EforAll Cape Cod event committee.
Yeah.
We're looking for some more members to the committee. So if any of you, I think Caroline, you're an alum. Sharonda, are you alum too?
I'm an alum of EforAll Roxbury.
Roxbury. Okay, well, that's fine. We'll take you. If anyone's interested, I'm on Facebook. You can reach out to Amanda. She can point you in my direction. But yeah, no, we're looking for a couple new people, and the roles are always evolving. They're always changing. So we kind of scale things back to the roles being for about a year, and then they'll roll into someone else. So my year term is almost up, believe it or not. So I'm looking for a replacement here. So anyway, just wanted to do the quick pitch to anybody on here that's an alum that would be interested in joining the committee.
Thank you to Sarah and Nikki, and Serafina. Thank you for all your work to put this together.
Yeah, thank you
Yeah,
both.
thanks for having us. It was great.
Thank
to
you
see
so much.
everybody.
It was really fun to share.
Yeah, I really appreciate everything that you guys both said. I don't know where I'm going, but it was all really useful information. So thank you.
Yeah.
Free to reach out anytime. If any other questions come up, I'm always down for grabbing coffee and talking shop. So reach out.
And you can combine services with coffee talk. I mean, let's not kid ourselves. I mean, I pushed my daughters the other day. I'm like, let's get petties, and they're like,
It's
like,
Father's
hold on.
Day. They should take you for pedicures,
That's-
Will. Come
yeah.
on
Don't forget.
in.
Sarah, you and I still have that dream. We're gonna run a Super Bowl Sunday or a March Madness event for Dad or for dudes.
Anytime.
We're doing it.
Yeah.
What's happening?
Good idea, actually. That's a very good idea.
Mark your calendars. It's happening.
My nails are a mess. If Sarah saw them, she'd pass out.
Well, we're a little late for Father's Day this year, Sarah, but we'll try next year.
Be like, just
For
leave.
sure.
Get out of here. Go somewhere.
All right, bye. No, thank you all.
Yep. Thank you. Good to see some old faces on here too. So
All right. Thanks,
Thank you,
guys.
everyone.
see everyone.
Bye.